It was a chilly evening in the small town of Maplewood, the kind of night where the wind seemed to whisper secrets as it rustled through the trees. Joe Thompson, a middle-aged mechanic with grease-stained hands and a heart as big as his dreams once were, was working late in his modest garage. The place was small, cluttered with tools and car parts, but it was his sanctuary, a place where he could lose himself in the hum of engines and the satisfaction of fixing what was broken. Joe was struggling. Business had been slow, and the bills were piling up like leaves in autumn. He was trying to repair an old pickup truck that belonged to Mrs. Henderson, a widow who relied on it to get to the grocery store. Joe had promised her a discount, knowing she couldn't afford much. It was just the way he was, always putting others first even when his own world felt like it was falling apart. As he tightened the last bolt, Joe heard a faint sound outside. At first he thought it was the wind, but then it came again, a soft, muffled sob. He wiped his hands on a rag and stepped out into the dim light of the street lamp. There, sitting on the curb with her knees pulled to her chest, was a young girl. She couldn't have been more than 13, her face buried in her hands, her shoulders shaking with each quiet cry. Joe's heart clenched. He wasn't a father, but something paternal stirred in him at the sight of her. He approached slowly, not wanting to startle her. "Hey there," he said gently, "are you okay?" The girl looked up, her eyes red and puffy from crying. She had a wild mess of brown hair and wore a jacket that was too big for her small frame. She didn't say anything, just stared at him with a mix of fear and exhaustion. "It's cold out. Here," Joe said, his voice as warm as the hot chocolate he was about to offer. "Why don't you come inside? I've got a heater and something warm to drink." She hesitated, glancing around as if expecting someone to jump out from the shadows. But after a moment she nodded slightly and stood up, clutching her jacket tightly around her. Inside the garage, Joe pulled up a chair for her and busied himself making a cup of hot chocolate. The smell of cocoa filled the air, mingling with the scent of oil and metal. He handed her the mug and she wrapped her hands around it, savoring the warmth. "What's your name?" Joe asked, sitting across from her. "Emily," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Nice to meet you, Emily. I'm Joe." He smiled, trying to put her at ease. "What brings you out here all alone?" Emily took a sip of the hot chocolate, her eyes darting to the floor. I ran away from home." Joe's smile faded, replaced by concern. "Why did you run away?" She bit her lip as if weighing whether to trust him. "My stepdad. He's not a nice man. He yells a lot, and sometimes he hits me. My mom, she's too scared to do anything. I just couldn't take it anymore." Joe felt a pang of anger mixed with sadness. No child should have to endure that. "I'm so sorry, Emily. That's not right. Do you have anywhere to go? Any family or friends who can help?" She shook her head, tears welling up again. "No, I don't know what to do." As she spoke, Joe noticed something odd. Her jacket seemed to move just slightly, as if something was underneath it. His brow furrowed. "Emily, is there something under your jacket?" Her eyes widened, and she clutched the fabric tighter. It's nothing." But Joe could see the fear in her eyes. "It's okay," he said softly. "You can trust me." After a long pause, Emily slowly unzipped her jacket, revealing a tiny, shivering kitten nestled against her chest. Its fur was matted, and it looked as lost and scared as she did. Joe's mouth fell open in surprise. "A kitten? Where did you find it?" "I found her in an alley a few days ago," Emily explained, her voice trembling. "She was all alone, and I couldn't leave her there. But I don't have any food for her, and I'm scared she'll die." Joe was stunned. Here was a girl with nothing. No home, no family to turn to. And yet she had taken it upon herself to care for another living being. It was a selfless act that spoke volumes about her character. "You're out here, with so little, and you're still thinking about this little one," Joe said, his voice thick with emotion. "That's pretty amazing, Emily." She shrugged, looking down at the kitten. "I know what it's like to feel alone. I didn't want her to feel that way too. Joe felt a lump form in his throat. He had seen a lot in his years, broken cars, broken dreams. But this was something different. This was a reminder that compassion could thrive even in the darkest of places. Don't worry, Emily, Joe said, determination settling in. We'll take care of her together. First, let's get some milk for the kitten. He rummaged through his small fridge and found a carton of milk, pouring some into a shallow dish. The kitten lapped it up eagerly, and for the first time, Emily smiled, a small, tentative smile that lit up her face. Over the next hour, Joe talked to Emily, learning more about her life. She told him about her love for animals, how she dreamed of becoming a veterinarian one day, but how her stepfather had crushed those dreams with his cruelty. Joe listened, his heart breaking a little more with each word. As the night wore on, Joe knew he couldn't let Emily go back to the streets. He had a small cot in the back of the garage, usually used for late nights when he worked overtime. You can stay here tonight, he offered. It's not much, but it's warm and safe. Tomorrow we'll figure out what to do next. Emily nodded, gratitude shining in her eyes. Thank you, Joe. You're the first person who's been kind to me in a long time. That night, as Emily slept soundly on the cot with the kitten curled up beside her, Joe sat at his workbench, deep in thought. He knew he needed to find a more permanent solution for Emily. He wasn't equipped to take care of a young girl long term, but he couldn't abandon her either. The next morning, Joe made a few phone calls. He had a friend, Sarah, who worked at a local youth shelter. She was kind and resourceful, and Joe trusted her to help Emily find a safe place. When Sarah arrived, she spoke with Emily gently, assuring her that she wasn't alone anymore. But Joe didn't stop there. He took the kitten to a nearby vet, using some of his scarce funds to ensure it was healthy. The vet confirmed that the kitten was malnourished but would recover with proper care. Joe decided to keep the kitten in the garage for the time being, naming her Hope, a symbol of what Emily had given him that night. Word of Joe's kindness spread quickly through the small town. Neighbors who had known Joe for years but never really talked to him started dropping by the garage. Some brought food and clothes for Emily. Others offered to help with the kitten's care. One elderly woman even brought a handmade blanket for the cot. It was as if Joe's single act of compassion had ignited a spark in the community. People who had been too busy or too preoccupied with their own lives suddenly found time to lend a hand. It was a reminder that kindness was contagious, that one good deed could inspire many more. A few days later, Sarah found a foster family, willing to take Emily in, a kind couple with a big backyard and a love for animals. When Emily heard the news, she threw her arms around Joe, tears of joy streaming down her face. Thank you, Joe, you saved me. Joe hugged her back, his own eyes misting over. You saved yourself, Emily. You were brave enough to run and kind enough to care for Hope. Don't ever forget that. As Emily left with her new foster parents, Joe felt a bittersweet ache in his chest. He would miss her, but he knew she was going to a better place. And in the weeks that followed, something remarkable happened. The people who had come to help Emily didn't forget about Joe. They started bringing their cars to his garage, recommending him to friends and family. Business picked up, and for the first time in months, Joe didn't have to worry about making rent. But more than the financial relief, Joe felt a sense of belonging he hadn't experienced in years. He had always been the quiet mechanic on the Y corner, but now he was part of something bigger, a community that looked out for one another. Months later, Emily returned to visit Joe, her face glowing with happiness. She told him about her new school, her new friends, and how she had joined the art club. She even showed him a drawing she had made, a sketch of the garage with Hope the kitten sitting on the workbench. This is for you, she said, handing him the drawing. So you'll always remember that night? Joe took the drawing, his heart swelling with pride. I'll never forget, Emily. You taught me something important, that no matter how little we have, we can always give something to others. As Emily left, Joe tacked the drawing above his workbench right next to a photo of Hope, who had grown into a sleek, playful cat. Every time he looked at them, he was reminded that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness could change lives in ways we never expect. In the end, Joe realized that he may not have had much, but what he gave to Emily, and what she gave back to him, was priceless. It was a lesson in humanity, a testament to the power of compassion, and a story that would stay with him forever.